Hello and welcome to the Good Stories Podcast. I'm Jody here with Steven, and today we're diving into a mystery. Not so much a murder mystery, but a mystery hidden inside an otherwise happy family. We're talking about The Secret Keeper by Kate Morton. She's an author with, I think, a real gift for weaving together past and present. This story stretches across both decades and generations as a daughter realizes she knows hardly anything about her mom. And she goes looking for her mom's story, and turns out it is full of secrets. One thing before we get started, though, this episode is by special request, but since we're talking about secrets, and I don't want to give everything away right up front, let's just call it a birthday present. So, happy belated birthday, and I hope you enjoy the story.
At a rural farmhouse in England in the 1960s, a teenage girl hides in a tree house to get some space from her family. A stranger comes down the road and startles her. The man approaches her mother, and she is shocked when her mother, without hesitation, stabs the man repeatedly with a knife, killing him instantly. Laurel, the teenage girl, and her infant brother are the only witnesses to this crime. It is declared self-defense by the authorities, and her other siblings are not told about it. Laurel moves on with her life and becomes a successful actress. Still haunted by this event, many years later she begins to explore the secrets of her mother's life and tries to make some sense of this grisly murder.
Well done. This one's tricky because it is full of twists and turns. So here is our very much needed on this one. Spoiler alert. This is a newer book compared to what we usually do. Came out in 2012. And kind of from the very beginning, things happen that are a little shocking and surprising all the way up to the very end. So if you don't want to know all the twists and turns, go read it first.
Yeah, we always emphasize spoilers because we go through it beginning to end, but this one, we really mean it. And the twists on this are so good that you may want to read it first before having it spoiled by somebody going through it. So this may be one you enjoy more, accompanying us on the journey after you've read it. So you've been duly warned because, again, the twists are really good. Isn't it kind of weird talking about a book with an author who's still alive?
Yes, I thought that too.
We don't do that often. I guess we've done a couple.
We've done a couple. It is a fairly long book, actually, so we will be abridging quite a bit of it, but there's wonderful details in it. I do really like how this one is written. I'd read this before, and actually a couple other books by Kate Morton, and they're all like that, where there's a lot of female characters, but across generations, and they're very twist and turns. Mm-hmm. So I had actually forgot some of the twists in it.
And I think Kate Morton really does a masterful job of negotiating that difference in time and space and character. I mean, she's really telling multiple stories simultaneously, and we get to participate in all the stories, but keeping them straight and who knows what and who doesn't know what, and then bringing it all together at the end, that's a gift. And I think she does a really good job with this book. My wife is a huge Kate Morton fan. She loves Kate Morton and has read just about everything she's written. And as I was preparing for this, I was asking her, well, what do I need to know, right? What would you say about this? And I thought this was great because she said there's kind of a code to Kate Morton to keep in mind. And it's true, I guess, throughout her books. What she says is that all her books start with an initial hook. There's something really interesting that just grabs you at the very beginning and makes you wonder what on earth is going on here. And then there's a second part that's always kind of the setup and the background and exposition, and you learn a bit more about it. And then there's a third part that she describes as kind of a trudging zone, where you've just got to kind of get through it. I mean, there's a lot in there and is important, but you might not necessarily enjoy that part. You feel like you're slogging through. And then the fourth and final part that makes it all worth it is the reveal. There's then this twist at the end that makes you realize, oh, we needed all that to get to the twist and to make it play off the way it does. So that helped me as I was thinking through this book. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually a very good description of the layout, the trudging zone. When we did Chesterton, you talked about a club, a detective club. What was it called?
Yeah, what was that called? I think it was a detective story writers club.
But they had an oath that
They
they had
did. There
to.
was the Detectives Oath. I can't remember the name of the club. It might have been something like the Detectives Club.
Sure,
Yeah.
good. But in it, I remember in the oath, you had to be able to solve the story, right?
Mhm.
There couldn't be like Deus Machina, right? Is that the
Exactly. Yeah.
like acts of God or just wild things you couldn't have predicted, and that's why she needs the trudging zone.
Yes. It has to be fair to the reader. That's what it was.
Yes.
Fairness to the reader, where the reader has a legitimate chance of figuring it out if they're paying close enough attention.
Yeah, so there is a murder at the beginning, but we already know who done it. So it's really not a murder mystery. It's
Mhm.
digging back into the past. And Kate Morton, she was born in 1976 in South Australia and has split her time in her life between Australia and England. I think her first book came out in 2006, so this one was I think her third or fourth novel that came out, but they are wildly successful. And because they are that interesting, I do think she has a focus on kind of that gothic feel. A couple of her favorite authors she listed out were Agatha Christie, the Brontes, and Virginia Woolf. So, I mean,
Mhm.
there's definitely that kind of bittersweet, poignant feel through
Hmm.
this. She does a great job of talking about memory and kind of family values, and even pictures come up in this as very important. But yeah, definitely a great skill in describing generations and like echoes
Mhm.
across generations of people's lives.
And that's something that I'm sure we'll talk about more at the end, that idea of the generational component, which I think is really beautiful, but I'll save that till we get further along.
So a bunch of her novels, maybe all of them. I haven't read all of them, but they do explore like family secrets and histories and hidden stories, and so that's very much a part of this. Yeah, let's get into it. So part one of this is called Laurel. Okay, so there are a few different characters that you walk through their life, but they happen at different times. So it's a mother and a daughter primarily, and so the daughter here is the focus of part one, and her name is Laurel. She's 16 years old in 1961. And I gotta be honest, I have short patience for teen angst.
I use that line all the time. My kids are sick of hearing about it, that I don't tolerate teen angst very well.
Well, here we get to read some teen angst.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because I think she does do a good job of painting the inner life of this girl's brain.
hmm
And she's not saying this is how you should think or how your emotions should be. I just think it's a very honest description of here's what the emotions are and what the thoughts are.
Yeah, so Laurel is hiding in a treehouse, hiding from her family, but it's a roller coaster. She's daydreaming, and she's daydreaming about her whole life ahead and what she wants to do and her big dreams. But then she's also so sad that she's not spending every second with her wonderful family. It's both. You learn more about her and her interests. She wants to be an actress, and she sneaks cigarettes and listens to the radio,
Yeah.
scandalous. But really, her family seems to really love one another. They're a happy family.
They do, mostly daughters. So Laurel is the main character that we're going to spend the most time with, but she's got other sisters, Rose and Iris and Daphne, and they all develop their own personalities. And then there's the little brother who's a baby in this opening scene. He's 2 years old or less, and this is Gerald that they'll call Jerry later. That was another thing I got out of this that's probably worth mentioning here at the beginning. The very British habit of changing the names. Some of them I could understand and some of them I couldn't. So switching Gerald to Jerry, okay, that makes sense. Laurel to Lol,
Lol.
that one took a little bit more work for me to get the hang of that one. So when we talk about Laurel or Lol, same character.
I'll say Laurel. But she's just thinking, and up in this treehouse, it's this hot summer day, and it does say that she believes in crossroads moments. And this book is full of memories and echoes and stories, this snippets tucked in. And this is one of those really great phrases, a crossroads moment, where something can happen and it can change your life forever, good or bad. And she mentions this before the man shows up.
Hmm.
She sees her mother come back because the mother's away at a picnic across the property
Yeah.
by a stream, having a picnic, a birthday celebration with the family. I think it's the baby's birthday.
I think it's the baby's birthday. And it's one of those things that she's very clear that this is a big deal. That family birthdays, family parties, family get togethers, they're very tight, very close. And in that kind of roller coaster way you talked about, she wants to be a part of it, but she also just wants space. She's dreaming about a boy, Billy Baxter. He's dreamy, apparently. But there's also things that have importance, like objects carry importance in this story. I mean, she's got a book, she's got a play that she's reading through in the treehouse because she had snuck away to go see the play as part of her desire to be an actress, and so she's got this book. And then her sister comes to say, "Hey, you got to come down, or we're going to eat the cake without you." But she knows it's a hollow threat because there's a knife. There's a ceremonial knife that gets used to cut the cake.
It's the birthday knife.
Every time. There's no way they're going to cut the cake without that knife, and she knows where it's at. And finally she says, "All right, I've been waiting too long. I should go grab the knife so I can join them." But her mom beat her to it. And so her mom is walking into the house, grabs the knife, and is walking out of the house in this loving interaction with her 2-year-old that she's hanging out with while she's got the birthday knife in her hand.
And he's so sweet. The description of the chunky baby, and she tickles his feet, and it's adorable. So
there's a lot of competition for who the baby loves best. So I'll just do the first quote here. They all fought to be his favorite, and they all claimed victory. But Laurel knew his face lit up most for her.
And she's right. We learn later she's totally right.
Totally right.
But their mom, they love their mom. They are a close-knit family. But the mom retrieves this birthday knife, is playing with her baby boy. Laurel's watching from the treehouse, and the dog starts barking. But not in a, hey, there's a stranger kind of way, like, hey, there's danger kind of way. And her mother's name is Dorothy. And she turns around, and this man who gives out this vibe of danger, he greets her by name.
"Hello, Dorothy. It's been a long time."
So Laurel is watching this happen, and the baby's on the ground. I think it's the moment when the man goes towards the baby boy on the ground, the 2-year-old sitting on the ground. Dorothy has the birthday knife in her hand, and she stabs him.
The next thing happened quickly. It was the liquid silver flash Laurel would always remember. The way sunlight caught the metal blade, and the moment was very briefly beautiful. Then the knife came down, the special knife, plunging deep into the man's chest. Time slowed. It raced. The man cried out, and his face twisted with surprise and pain and horror. And Laurel stared as his hands went to the knife's bone handle, to where the blood was staining his shirt as he fell to the ground, as the warm breeze dragged his hat over and over through the dust. Ah!
It's a very
shocking,
sudden beginning.
Yeah, and, coming from a fairly close family, like, I'm imagining my mother just stabbing some guy who walked up. It would shock me, and it shocked Laurel, and she passes out.
Yeah, and when she comes to, it's quiet down in the garden, but she makes her way down slowly, and there's great descriptions of the details of what she sees as she walks and all these things. But when she makes it into the house, the police are there. The other kids are not there. Her mother and her father are in there, and she hears them talking. There's clearly an investigation going on, and this is really Laurel's first acting scene. It says she has some kind of FOMO, like fear of missing out thing, intrinsic in her, because she thinks about sneaking up the stairs, but no, she enters. And she gives her testimony that she saw this happen. She witnessed this, and her dad is like, go away. But now she has admitted to the police that she witnessed this death, this murder, and they're claiming self-defense. And Laurel supports it, and she knows there's something in the back of her mind. Something that she's not quite mentioning, but she shuts it down. She's like, didn't he attack? Well, yeah, he moved toward the baby. He moved towards Jerry. This man was a danger, and her mother killed him out of self-defense. She's a very good actress, even at a young age. And she did witness it, and she did feel fear. And so it's her thought process as she gives this report to the police.
Yeah, I think it's important to emphasize that she's not lying. as she's giving this detailed description. She believes she becomes this story that she's explaining, but part of her knows that it's not entirely accurate and it's certainly not the complete story. But she doesn't even recognize that in the moment. It's only later that that comes back to her that she remembers he said her name. She doesn't tell that to the police. That gets held back. But again, I don't think intentionally. I think that's just not part of the persona she's inhabiting as she does this first great acting portrayal.
Yeah, and afterward, her father talks to her and said, "Hey, your mother had to do it. She was protecting Jerry, and we're not going to tell the other girls. This is our secret. There's no need to trouble them."
Mm-hmm. And
And
Jerry's too young to remember.
yeah, there's a note even at the beginning. They're like, "Turns out he wasn't." But again, it's a secret from the beginning from the other daughters. So Laurel is the one who knows and grows up with this burden. And I mean, she's what, 16, 17 years old, and she wants to go after this. She wants to go to London. She wants to be an actress. And her parents don't want her to go. And she tells her mom, who comes to sit with her, "Imagine you're 17 and your whole life is ahead of you. Can you imagine wanting to go anywhere else than London?" She tells her, "I want to be an actress." And she realizes it's stupid to say that to her mom. Her mom never wanted to do anything cool.
That's right.
But then her mom says, "No, I can't imagine not wanting to be in London." She does understand. And she ends up going.
Mm-hmm. Much to their, against their will. Yeah, it is against their will. They try and talk her out of it.
She's young.
Yeah. And through these, so we've already hit through several of the first chapters here and what we just described. And what we haven't gone over is the bouncing back and forth that's occurring. And there's no way we can do it justice on this podcast. Read the book and you'll get to experience it more. But this is taking place in rural England in the 1960s, but where we bounce to frequently in these first few chapters is actually Suffolk, England in 2011. So this is many decades in the future where Laurel is older and her mom is old and really getting towards the end of her life.
She's dying.
Yeah. I love the way they introduce though Laurel at this point, because this is late in her career and she's playing with her cheeks looking in the mirror. She's like holding up the cheek and dropping it down and the other cheek and dropping it down. And she says that, this has actually helped her career because she has made it as an actress. The wrinkles, apparently, people just love. They find her face trustworthy. She's become this great character actress. She's won Oscars and BAFTAs. But she hates it because she just feels old. And I just love that scene. I can imagine myself just like looking in the mirror, like fiddling with my cheeks and looking at the lines. It's a great introduction to her.
Yeah, she'd be in her 60s here. And she is a famous actress now. So yeah, you go from the 1960s and just immediately jump ahead to 2011. And she's entering this hospital to visit her mother, who is dying. You get the sense kind of from this first 2011 time that she's already in hospice care, but she is at a hospital. But as the actress and just the family role, Laurel's job is to basically recite the family photo album. She has other sisters there. I don't think we'll focus too much on them just because there's too many details to cover if we do. So it's really about Laurel speaking to her mother as she's in and out. Sometimes conscious, sometimes not so much.
The one thing I will say about the sisters, I agree, we're not going to go into them in depth here, but Kate Morton does a great job about giving each of them their own personality. So they are fully fleshed out people. Like you can see these family dynamics, and she does a really good job with it.
Yeah, the family role and where and the dynamic between four sisters who've known each other a lifetime is quite lovely. But as Laurel is going through this photo album, she's like, "See, here's Jerry when he was little," and she has her lines lined up. She's done it many times, evidently. There's a new picture. It pops out, and it's of these two young girls. One is clearly her mom when she was about 16 or 17 from May 1941. So that's kind of the third time frame we're bouncing between in this book. There's 2011, where Laurel is all grown up and her mother's in hospice. There's the 1960s, where Laurel is a teen girl. And then there's the 1940s, when her mother, Dorothy, or Dolly, both are her names, she's a teen girl.
Yeah. And we learn a little bit more about that picture because Laurel asks her sister, "Where did this come from? I've never seen it before." And she says, "Oh, it fell out of a book." And we get to see the book, and the book is a play. It's Peter Pan, the play Peter Pan. But more than that, it has an inscription on it. It says, "For Dorothy, a true friend is a light in the dark, Vivian." So now we've got this picture Laurel's never seen before. We have a year, 1941, and we have a name, Vivian. Nobody knows who Vivian is.
Who's Vivian?
Who's Vivian? So again, secrets keep coming up and keep abounding.
Yeah, presumably Vivian is the other girl in this picture. It says their arms are linked. They look happy together. They're smiling at the camera. But I think it's here Laurel first recognizes that she knows virtually nothing about her mom's life before she became her mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like her backstory during the war. This was during World War II in London, during the Blitz. She has no idea really what she did up until the point of the love story that's told between her mom and her dad. It's how her mom met her dad because Dorothy worked at this boarding house and she fell in love with her boss's son when he came back from the war, and they had a wonderful relationship. Turns out her dad had passed several years ago now, and now Dorothy's dying. But prior to that love story and the beginning of their family, it's all dark.
And the impression you get as the book goes on, actually, is that that's not uncommon for this age group. That so many people in the World War II era just didn't want to talk about it for lots and lots of reasons. And so they didn't think it was necessarily that weird that they didn't know anything about her mom before the meeting of her father, but it definitely was a hole, a void, where she just didn't know.
You'd think the murder would have made her ask some more questions a little earlier, but... Self-defense. I mean, if she had convinced herself, I mean, it would be so traumatic. And she had convinced herself that this was purely self-defense, that there was no aggression in it.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where Laura goes back home with her sisters, back to the farmhouse. And she's a successful actress. She doesn't go home much, but this coming home and being together to be with their mom as she's passing is an important time. But Laurel, is stewing on Vivian. Who is Vivian?
Mm-hmm.
But I love it as they get to this house because they grew up in this house, and this house is still their house. It says that the house remembered her.
Yeah.
I like this as a thing. But then she said, that's ridiculous. It's that I remember the house, all the memories in the house. And it's pairing, 65-year-old her with teen girl her. She left when she was 17 years old. And so kind of shoving those two people together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's described really well because how much would change, in that amount of time, but the house is still there.
And this is really, I think, where she starts to think about the murderer again. Because as you mentioned, her father had died in the past. And so all the children, the grown-up children, are sitting on the porch and looking out over this valley and saying, well, that's an important valley because, that's where Dad died when I was 16 is what's going through her mind. And then she realized, oh, no, I'm conflating things. It wasn't Dad. That was that other guy. Like, she has buried this deep. And now, though, it's coming out in a strong way.
Yeah, the other thing that happens are the memories, because it describes how her mom, Dolly, had picked this house very specifically. Like, her and her new husband were driving by on a date. The car got a flat tire, and she's like, we're getting that house. A farmer lived there. They knocked on the door and they're like, we're going to live here. That's been no question about it. But it said that both her mom and the house, they spoke to each other. And it's very lovely where the house is like a worn out old lady, but very lovely and still had dignity. She's like, it could have been a self-portrait for her mom where they understood one another. And there are many references to how much Dorothy loved her husband. Like they put a swing under the oak tree not because it's the nicest view, but it's because where she can see where her husband passed. That's the closest spot to where he last was. Mm-hmm. So there's these both bitter and sweet memories because, it digs up this traumatic memory of this man being killed, but also all these wonderful memories of her parents together and their stories of a life together. Mm-hmm. So it is both, and it is very bittersweet. It's lovely.
Absolutely. And so we have the 2011 timeline going on now. We have the 1960s timeline, and here we get our first picture of the 1941 timeline.
So we're back in London during World War II, during the Blitz.
This is the Blitz. This is crazy. There are bombs flying, planes overhead, things burning. It's a wild time. I mean, people are going down into these bomb shelters, but at any time they can just die because the city is being bombarded. And this first story, this parallel story, now remember, Laurel doesn't know this, but we as readers get to experience this. And in this story, in May of 1941, Vivian shows up. We don't know anything about her. She's a young, lovely woman. Dolly is a young, lovely woman. Vivian goes and grabs Dolly, who's leaving her house. And she says, "No, go back in there with me. We need to talk." And it is an alarming interchange. She grabs her by the arm. It is clearly indicated that something bad is going on. Dolly says, "No, I need to go meet up with Jimmy." Vivian says, "You're not going to meet with Jimmy. Jimmy's gone." That's as much as we get. Jimmy's gone. And she tells Dolly, "You need to leave. This is dangerous. Our plans didn't work. You need to go away." And Dolly is just collapsing in front of Vivian. But it also says that she has been given a job offer to go work at a boarding house, and she resolves to do it. And the bombs keep flying, and then the chapter comes to a close, and that's about all we get. So we know that there's Vivian, there's Dolly, and there's this guy named Jimmy. And that's our first picture of May of 1941.
Vivian tells her, "You are a survivor and you're going to survive. You're going to go make a new life." And I think Dolly does invite Vivian to come with her wherever. We don't know the context at all. But Vivian says, "Nope, I'm going home." And Dolly thinks, of course she'd stay here. She's got that beautiful house. She's got this loving husband. Of course she'd stay here. She has it all. But no, I'm going to go make this new life. And that's it for that chunk.
And the mysteries abound. So many secrets going on here.
I do think this book gets smoother to read as you go along, because the idea here at the beginning is it's these tastes of young Dolly, young Dorothy, and young Laurel. And then as we go and they develop and we learn more and those secrets are divulged, it smooths out. But here, I think by intention, it's kind of bumpy. You're jumping decades constantly. But keep in mind, we have Laurel and her mom, Dolly. Just at different ages.
Different ages. I think we should go back to Laurel now, because Laurel is wondering who's this Vivian character, and she's remembering this scene she witnessed as a teenager. Well, this guy, she knew the name of him. The police came and investigated this whole thing. The identity of the man was known, and it turns out he was a man named Henry Jenkins. And we don't get a lot of information on him here to begin with. There's a thought that he may have been a guy that was doing like perverted things to other picnickers in the area. And so he went down in kind of infamy, and it sort of got hushed up. So like her family's name didn't get in the papers or anything. But Laurel knows the name of Henry Jenkins, and so she starts Googling some stuff. She starts looking into some things, and I can't remember how she came across this. It might not have been Google. It might have been an old newspaper clipping, but she learns that his wife was named Vivian. And so we have a Vivian, this Vivian Jenkins, and all she knows about her is that she was Australian and died in the Blitz in 1941, and that she had been married to Henry Jenkins.
So here she finds a connection. It's funny because they have these family trunks. Everybody has a trunk upstairs. And I think she finds that newspaper article in his old trunk that she hasn't looked at in however many decades. But it's this article that she kept when this event happened. Devastating event to her. But she didn't want to read it. She couldn't stomach it at the time. And so now she's looking at that newspaper article and realizes, Vivian, I've heard that name. But yeah, she died in May of 1941. Like that was long ago at this point. And so she keeps looking around the home, and here's where she looks at the fridge. And this, again, is so family to me, where the fridge is just so crowded with stuff. Everybody, would compete for space on the fridge. I mean, Grandma had so many things and magnets on her fridge.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was great. Such a family thing. But she finds a clip from a newspaper because people used to cut them out, right? And it turns out that Dolly was quite the gardener. And her husband was very proud of it. When she won a runner beans competition, it was in the newspaper. And so that got posted in the local paper. And back when Laura was a teen, she asked her mom at some point, like, who was that man? How did he find you? And Dolly answers a little bit. And she says, the newspaper article.
Hmm.
That's how he found me.
And I think she even tells her that's how he knew my name. Because she asked, how did he know your name? Yeah, Laurel asked her mother, how did he know your name? And it's the newspaper article. And all right, good enough. I guess that explains it.
Laura still wonders what happened, though. And she says, who were you, Dorothy, before you became Ma?
Mm-hmm.
She's wondering, as she's watching her mother lie there sleeping at the end of her life, who were you before? She's still wondering.
Which leads nicely into our next time jump storyline. We got that brief snippet of 1941, but now this goes back to 1938 to a young Dorothy Smitham who lives in Coventry, England, and is going to the seaside for vacation. And this is kind of hilarious because we've just watched the emotions and thoughts of Laurel as a teenager, and now we get the emotions and thoughts of Dorothy as a teenager, and there's some similarities.
Oh, they're entirely similar. It's she's annoyed to be going on the family vacation. Her family just doesn't get her. You know, she wants to go be a circus performer, or like a higher wire walker, you know, totally different than an actress. But I don't know. There is something to that idea that you never look at your parents and think of them like they were when they were your age. It's a strange, I don't know, mental pathway to try to do so.
I think it's one of the best parts of this book, or one of the things I got out of it so strongly. And this will keep coming up throughout the book. But we all have this sense of that we're doing everything for the first time. And it's clear that no, I mean, these patterns repeat. Kids are kids, teenagers are teenagers, grown-ups are grown-ups. And it's, I think it's a very humbling way of kind of realizing how human we all are, even in the 1930s.
Yeah, so she is dreaming of going somewhere big. Like her dad is the most boring person in the world, but sometimes he gets to go to London for work. And it says when he comes back, he has this air of having been somewhere. It capitalizes been somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really well communicated. But here is where her family's at the beach. Her dad's hilarious, where they have to get the right spot. They have to
That's
be
right.
like up and out the door to get there on time. And it's like this big win when they get the right spot on the beach before all those suckers later, you know.
And she is just appalled by her father, her whole family at every turn. He goes to play cricket on the beach with, you know, her brother and these other people, and it's just embarrassing. I mean, Dad, come on. And meanwhile, she's people watching. She's looking around and she sees wealthy people, beautiful, young, wealthy people. There's this one woman in particular who's wearing, I guess, this stunning silver dress and just clearly knows everyone and is moving in these circles. And that's what Dorothy wants. She is just looking at this and loving it and wishing it was her, but it's not her.
It's not her. And it does describe how she found a private box of her mother's up in their garage, I think, or attic. And evidently these are things from her mother's youth. And her mother, in her mind, is, again, the most boring of all people. But in this box, she finds a newspaper clipping where her mother won an award for having the most beautiful voice. She was a singer, and she cannot imagine her mom having done anything because she's just mom.
Mm-hmm.
She's her mom. But she heads off the beach because, you know, the eye rolls abound towards her dad. But her boyfriend shows up. He followed her. How romantic. He couldn't bear to be away.
And this was well done because I thought he was just a creeper. The way it gets described is this, you know, this young man who's watching the young women on the beach, sees one go away on her own, and he's not going to miss this opportunity. And I'm like, oh man, she's in trouble. No, it's her boyfriend.
His name is Jimmy. Hey,
we heard of a Jimmy.
We heard of a Jimmy. And Jimmy actually, even for a young man, he's very upright. He's very honest. He is very poor, but he seems to really love Dolly. I mean, they're young, so There's not much substance there, but he wants to take pictures. He wants to be a photographer. And Dolly thinks, oh, he's going to propose. She's so wrapped up in her mind, like it's happening right now. He's like, hey, I have something to ask you about. And so she makes these projections in her mind. He's like, I got a job offer. She's so ticked off that he didn't do what she expected him to do, didn't say what she expected him to say. She runs away angry, but they make it up. It's all okay. But yeah, Jimmy, you get the idea already that Jimmy prioritizes kind of hard work and making some money, getting set up in life. And Dolly just wants the stuff. She wants the stuff. She wants the position. She likes he calls them her let's pretend. She likes to make believe and pretend to be someone else. Jimmy doesn't really have that, but she is exciting.
Yeah, he's willing to play along if he has to, but you're right. It's not part of his personality. We learn why. Jimmy goes back to Coventry, so he came to visit the beach just to see her, but he goes back on the train because he's taking care of his dad. His elderly father is not doing well, and we learn that his mother had left them. And his mother was that kind of person too, that one who cared about stuff and money and big things. And he loved his mother, but she left him because they didn't have that. And so Jimmy has seen what happens when you just kind of marry for love, is the way he views it. And he sees that it ends terribly. And so he's not going to do that. And you're right. He's an upright kid. I mean, he is taking care of his father. He is working to make money, but he does not believe he can afford to marry her yet. And that's why he's going to take this job in London as a photojournalist.
Yeah, and Dolly gets excited about London. She's like, I'm going to. Just like Laurel down the road does when she's 17. And that's why when adult Dorothy Dolly is, it's funny, they have two names and they go back and forth. When she's an adult, they mostly call her Dorothy. When she's a kid, they call her Dolly. But when Dorothy's an adult talking to her teenage daughter, that's why she can say, no, I can't imagine not wanting to go to London, because she too was going to London. But I do find Jimmy's dad adorable in this. His mind is broken. His mind wanders. And so all the time, though, he's telling Jimmy how proud he is of not just how proud his dad is, but how proud his mom and dad are of him. He doesn't remember that she left. He doesn't remember that she abandoned them. And Jimmy, he's so sweet to him. He cares for him so thoughtfully. It's a really kind of a small side story in this, but it is really beautiful.
Yeah.
So then we jump ahead 2 years. So we are in 1940 now, and it is the Blitz in London. So now Dolly has come to London. She's been there a while. Jimmy is a photographer. He goes to battle sites and takes haunting pictures of war. That is his job, and it's why he's not in a uniform. But Dolly has gotten this caretaker job to a, let's say, demanding, sad and rich old woman.
Lady Gwendolyn.
So there is a doctor. He's like the dad of a friend of hers. And again, you get kind of a creeper feeling from Dr. Rufus, but he takes special interest in Dolly. She's young and pretty and a friend of his daughter's, but he treats her to a special lunch regularly.
It does get awkward. You wonder about it.
Yeah.
Dolly thinks this is great. One, she thinks he's too handsome to be the dad of a friend, and so that's creepy too. But he is also apparently a bit of a psychiatrist. His specialty is mental health. And he starts doing some tests with Dolly, like holding up ink blots and things like that. And what Dolly takes from this is that she is special, that she is exceptional, that this testing indicates there's something great about her. And so she loves it. But it is Dr. Rufus, I think, that gets her this position with Lady Gwendolyn, right?
Yeah. He helps her find the job. And it turns out she's pretty good at it. She worked at, I think, a dressmaker's or something, but she offended somebody.
Yeah. Short hemlines are not for everyone.
She thinks a lot of herself already in this. But again, she's young, but she likes rich things. She likes position. And so she's working for this rich old woman, and she likes the stories and the socialite aspect of it. But she does volunteer at a soup kitchen, basically, but really only to be friends with another rich lady. named Vivian who lives across the street. They lived
Hmm.
on Campden Drive or something like that. And she wants to be friends with Vivian. Vivian is perfect. She's beautiful. She's got the husband. She's got the house. She wears everything flawlessly. She's in the newspaper. She is who Dolly wants to be.
To the point where in the society magazines that she reads to Lady Gwendolyn, Vivian is in them. She's cutting out pictures of Vivian from these magazines when she's at her most beautiful. What is she wearing? What is she dressing at? She smiles at her across the street because she's right there. And again, she's volunteering in the place so that they can work together, so that they can be friends together in this place where they're working.
Yeah, even her volunteering is a little selfish. This girl has some lessons to learn. But the old lady is also selfish.
Oh yes.
Talks about her thieving nephew. So there's some mention of the will. And as Dolly helps Lady Gwendolyn more and more as her caretaker, she's like, I should leave everything to you. But Dolly actually gets a phone call that says, very abruptly, I thought, all your family's dead in
Yeah.
Coventry. They died in an incendiary bomb. They're gone. She is shocked and grieving. I mean, this is appalling. And she's trying to care for this rich old lady. And this is where they bond because
Mhm.
the old lady's lonely too. She lost her family. She lost her sister. And now Dolly thinks, oh, we're family. We have each other.
Yeah.
So it's some comfort.
Yeah. Lady Gwendolyn offers her a sweet.
Yeah, the rich lady is really into the like hard sweets, which is strange.
Yeah. Yeah, and she basically just lays in bed all day, near as I can tell. I mean, she doesn't do anything, but she's still very well connected. She knows society. She knows all these people going around. And so she'll have Dolly read the society section, and she'll talk about, okay, there's this party coming up. And she'll ask, well, is it at this home? No, it's at this club. And she's appalled. A club.
Ugh.
I mean, it's things like that she's always kind of weighing in on and judging the other people. And Dolly is eating this up. This is the world she wants to be a part of. This is the world of money. And the other thing that she does a lot while Lady Gwendolyn is just hanging out in bed, there are clothes in this house. There is a whole wardrobe that she's not using. And so in her off time, Dolly will just go through the furs and the dresses and all this stuff and just loving it.
Yeah, the other way she passes her time is Vivian's husband is an author, Henry Jenkins. She gets his books. And there's one in particular, The Reluctant Muse, that apparently it's what's it called when you write from your own experience? A
Pseudo-biographical.
pseudo-biographical book where clearly it is about his wife. It's his love story with his wife. Dolly pores over this book. She loves this book. Vivian is her friend. She wants to know everything about her. She loves everything about her. What's interesting, though, is Dolly sees herself in this story, though. She sees herself as Vivian and how much alike they are, even that they look alike. So she's definitely got some stalker tendencies happening, but she's trying to be friends with this woman and even volunteers at the same place to do so. Jimmy's still part of her life. He travels around taking pictures, and Dolly does not like his pictures.
No.
They are too real.
They're upsetting. They're horrible. Why would you want to see these things?
Yeah, there's things where it's men after battle and they're exhausted and shot up. There's families who just lost their homes coming out of bomb raids. There's children in oversized clothes that clearly aren't theirs, so they have something to wear trying to get warm. I mean, these are hard pictures, but we learn from Jimmy that he actually loves them. He feels like he took a piece of them when he captured that picture. Like
Mhm.
he owes them something to remember them for taking that moment.
Yeah, I think it's war journalism at its best, or what it tries to be. It's not taking these pictures just for the horror of them or the gruesomeness of them. It's to remember so that people know what this was like and what happened. And so these stories don't get lost. So he can capture the story in an image, and then that can be preserved and appreciated, and we can learn from it. And I think it's beautiful what he does with these.
Yeah, there's a little girl that sticks out where she's wearing like red tap shoes. They're not even her, clearly they don't fit her, but she just loves them. And so it's her in these shoes that someone gave her. But Dolly wants him to play dress up. She's
Yeah.
like, meet me, look like a real gentleman. And that's not his thing. But he loves her and he's trying to give her what she wants. So he dressed up as nice as he can. They always describe how there's like holes in his socks and things,
Yeah.
but you make do. This is war, people.
He's wearing his dad's suit.
Yeah.
and he's pulling it off. I mean, it works.
He's a handsome guy. But he's so sweet with his dad. His dad has a bird named Finchy that they feed these crumbs, even during the war, when food is scarce and rationed. He's feeding this little bird, and Dolly meets him, and she's wearing one of these old, wonderful dresses from the rich lady, but they sneak into this club, this rich people club, and they're across the red line. Like there's a red cord that separates like the haves and the have not so much. They get in because they're dressed up, and Dolly loves it. This is her time where she gets to make believe. She's being an actress, really. She loves it. To Jimmy, he says it seems deeply disloyal to his dear old dad.
Yeah.
And here's where he starts to feel some distance between them in terms of what they want.
Mm-hmm. But he steps up and he plays the part as Lord, what was it? Lord Sandhurst or something? Brockle, I don't remember.
Lord somebody.
Title. Yeah, and he pulls it off. They go in, they get champagne. This is a party. It's all paid for. And so they eat eggs and bacon and they dance on the floor, but then they start to get noticed. The guy is like, so you're friends of my fiance? Oh, yes, we have been. And they play it off. And then eventually they say, oh, we have to catch the train. And they just run. They book it out of this club. They get away. And Dolly just thought this was the greatest thing ever and just loved the whole thing about it.
They end up chatting a little bit on their date, though. And she tells Jimmy that she made a new friend. Her name is Vivian. But he says, hey, I'd like to meet her sometime. And here's where Dolly already doesn't want them to meet.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't want to offend Jimmy, but he doesn't belong where Vivian belongs, and vice versa. And Vivian doesn't belong where Jimmy belongs. He is common and she is wealthy. And Dolly feels that difference already. And it does say that Dolly, she liked having secrets. But he says he'd do anything for her. And he's like, well, I already have a ring. His mom left a ring when she left. And here's where he's thinking back to his mother and the Nightingale star.
That was a sweet story, kind of. Jimmy's mother would basically say, I'll meet you on the Nightingale star. It was this parting thing. And so Jimmy thought it was a place. And so when his mother left, it took him a while to realize she was really gone because he thought there would be this place to meet. But to Jimmy, this became this beautiful thing, the Nightingale star, this place, Never Never Land, right? Fairyland, this faraway place where we can meet. That's beautiful. And so that became a thing for him. The idea of the Nightingale star.
Well, she was putting him to bed when he was little, and the idea is that it's this great magical boat that sits on the rim of sleep, on the edge of falling asleep. So if you make a wish as you're falling asleep, you'll get there and you can have this grand adventure. And so she'd meet him there on the Nightingale star. But then his mother abandoned him for a rich man. So yeah, that's why it's bittersweet. This whole thing is pretty bittersweet.
Mm-hmm.
But then we jump back. I called her Current Laurel.
Yeah, and again, to be clear, if you read the book, you actually have jumped back multiple times in between. We're lumping a bunch of this stuff together to make it easier to talk through, but there's this really great whiplash that occurs as you're bouncing back and forth. And let's go back to Current Laurel.
Current Laurel is watching her mother sleep, and she's remembering as a child how when she was a kid, when she couldn't sleep, her mom, Dolly, would tell her about this great ship that leaves from the rim of sleep called the Nightingale Star. And her mom's like, I haven't seen you there. She's like, oh, you don't know it? No wonder I haven't seen you there. She's a lovely storyteller. Yeah. Said she has such a capacity for make-believe and sharing these stories with her children. So you get this echo of Jimmy talking about the Nightingale Star and then Laurel looking back at her mother talking about the same ship. And that's how those time transitions happen. They tie
Hmm.
together old and new between the same kind of thread between the two. But Laurel is reading Henry Jenkins' book, The Reluctant Muse. She finds the author insufferable.
Yeah.
He's
He thinks a lot of himself.
He's conceited. He just treats his wife like she's some kind of strange, idyllic prize thing. I think she closes the book. She's like, "Ugh, this is terrible." That thing that Dolly, her mom, loved, she can't stand it.
Yeah, does not like it at all. But she's invested in who this man is. And again, the internet is a thing in 2011, so she starts to look things up, and she looks up his address, where Henry Jenkins lived. Now, we already know where he lived because we talked about it being in Camden Yard. She goes to Camden Yard, but there's a little boy she finds that comes out of the house, and his mother calls to him. His name's Julian, and the most awkward, weird thing happens. This little boy turns, looks up at Laurel, who is this world famous actress at this point, and says, "You're Daddy's lady," and then goes back into the house. It is so bizarre
It's
and so
unsettling.
strange. Yeah, she didn't know what to make of it.
Well, she's used to being recognized because she is a famous actress, so it's less weird for her. But still, what?
Daddy's lady? What? The other thing that I think is worth noting is that Laurel makes some choices here that allow her to look more deeply into her mother's past. So she's being interviewed for a documentary on her life. She's an important enough actress that she gets interviewed for things. And she kind of breaks down a little bit during one of these interviews, and her agent is very sweet and very supportive and says, "Hey, what do you need?" And what she says is time. "I need time." And the agent says, "Got it," and cancels the interview. And Laurel now has time to look into her mother's history.
Evidently, Laurel never takes time off, so it freaks her sisters out. Like, are you sick? What's happening? But
Right?
no, she needs time to investigate this thing that happened with her mom that the other girls don't know about. But someone did, because it goes back to a memory of her brother, Jerry, the little boy, when the man was killed. And he asked Laura once, years ago, "Did something violent happen in our childhood?" And she laughs it off. "No, what a great family. We were perfect." She lied. And here's where she tries to be honest. She tries to connect with him. Apparently, he's hard to get a hold of.
Yeah. He is the spacey, absent-minded professor nutty. He doesn't, he didn't like that his phone was blinking at him, so he ripped it out of the wall kind of guy. But everyone likes him.
But very endearing. Yeah.
Has multiple PhDs. He's an astrophysicist. He maps and charts the universe. And so, fascinating guy.
Yeah, they do have a 90th birthday party for Dorothy. And she tears up. And there was some discussion of the birthday knife and like, where did that ever go? They don't know. The others don't know that the police took it as evidence.
Yeah, it's gone.
But
and you don't want to cut a cake with it now anyway.
No, I don't. Dorothy, as this old woman says, "I'm so grateful to have," and nobody else hears it but Laurel, a second chance. And Laurel thinks, if you live a boring life with no mistakes in it, you don't need a second chance.
Yeah. Second chance from what?
She has a new question. But yeah, here she has this time to dedicate to investigating who her mom used to be.
Back in 1941, in the house where Dolly was working, she wasn't the only young woman in that house. In wartime London, people were kind of getting set up wherever there was a house not bombed out. And so in this great house, much to the annoyance of Lady Gwendolyn, there were several young women in that house as well. Dolly would interact with them, although she kept herself a little bit aloof from them. She kind of thought she was better than them because she was the maid to Lady Gwendolyn, and they were, common riffraff that were, running around the clubs chasing the RAF guys. But she was also friends with them in that way too, and there was one of them named Kitty. This becomes important now as we transition back to 2011 because Laurel is trying to find more about her mother and her childhood, and she learns about Kitty, that Kitty had lived at that house and that she's still alive and apparently loves talking about World War II.
So Laura goes to see her. They have some tea with Kitty and her daughter, who's probably similar age to Laurel. And Kitty talks about living at the house and that Dolly was always, she thought she was too good for them. She
Mhm.
made some new friends, and she's like, new friends like who? And I don't know that she says Vivian by name, but it's the lady who lived across the street.
Yeah.
Vivian. And there was a boy. What was his name? Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy Stewart, like Jimmy Stewart. So she hands these keys over that these are pieces of her memories as well. But it seems like something happened because she saw Dolly come out of Vivian's house and she was angry.
Mhm.
And they were out dancing one night and she said, "Oh, I have a plan. I'm going to get them back, get her back." So something went sideways there. She doesn't know what, but something.
Yeah. And then they parted ways. So Kitty got married and left the house, and so she doesn't know what happened to Dorothy, but she's actually kind of glad to hear she's still alive, and doesn't plan on meeting up with her or anything. But this gives more information to Laurel about her mother's life.
Yeah, because as her mom is lying there, mostly asleep, she's muttering some names, and at some point she says she made mistakes. And Laurel asks her, like, tell me about your friend, and tell me about your friend Vivian. And she's like, well, she was a friend in the war, and she died. And the plan went wrong. I mean, she's kind of throwing out these phrases. The plan went wrong. I need to talk to Dr. Rufus.
Mm-hmm.
And Laura's like, your doctor's name is Cotter. Like, oh, right. Like her brain is mixed up. She's passing. But Dr. Rufus, like, what? That's a thread now too. So throughout this, as Laurel investigates, there's just these nuggets that we get to know more about from Dolly's story before. But here, these are new areas of investigation for Laurel about her mom. But here is also, I think, where her mom tells Laurel, like, that boy Billy, like, she's back in her memory again. If that boy asks you to marry him and you love him, you say yes. You should only ever marry for love.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, where did that come from?
Yeah, and who's Billy?
Who's Billy?
She had forgotten about how dreamy he was when she was 16.
It's a long time ago, I guess. Laurel does recruit her brother to help. She's honest with him that, hey, something did happen. I saw it. You were there. You were just little. And I love Jerry. He kind of takes it. He processes a little bit, but he says, I'm still backing our mom. He believes there's a good reason, some good reason that this happened, despite all these threads and things otherwise. And she's like, aren't you a scientist? Don't you look at proof, evidence? He's like, I'm still with mom.
That's right.
Because they know the end. They know how she lived her adult life. And he's siding with his mom, which I think is very sweet.
They kind of split up what they're going to research. Dr. Rufus, well, he's in academia around doctors and stuff. So Jerry's going to go down that pathway. And then Laurel's going to be running down some of these other leads that are popping up as they go.
All right. It's probably time to get back to Dolly. Because she is busy volunteering at the soup kitchen and smiling at everybody.
Yeah.
Every boy that comes in. But her boyfriend, Jimmy, shows up to be sweet. And she is thrown off big time. She does not want him there. She's only there to hang out with Vivian when she gets the chance. And she does not want Jimmy and Vivian to meet.
Yeah.
But she gets pulled aside because she's not doing a really good job.
That happens a lot.
It does. And when she comes out, Jimmy is talking to Vivian. He had pulled out some of his pictures, and so Dolly hangs back because she doesn't want each other to know. She's very manipulative at this time, where she doesn't want them to know that she knows each of them separately. It's confusing. But they're talking about his pictures. And she is just fired up. She wants to know what they're talking about, but she doesn't get to find out till later.
Jimmy went there for a reason, though. And we had talked earlier about how Jimmy had a ring, and it's time. He's going to propose to her. He's ready to do it. It does not go well. Dolly just can't believe he would propose to her at this point. Remember, at this point, Dolly believes that she's like family to Lady Gwendolyn. And she is starting to believe, and she believes people are indicating to her that Lady Gwendolyn is planning on leaving her a fortune.
Even a lawyer came to the house and basically told her, like, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, something's set aside for you. So she thinks she's joining this higher world now, this inheritance.
But if she's married or even known to be in a relation with this below stairs level person, Lady Gwendolyn will just throw her out and kick her out. And so she can't be in a relationship with Jimmy at this point. Jimmy, she knows, is working to make money and so that they can afford to get married. But if they just wait, she's going to get all the money they need from Lady Gwendolyn, but they cannot be married to now. And Lady Gwendolyn can't even know she's in a relationship with him right now.
And really, Dolly then is selfish. All she wants to know is what he was talking to Vivian about. And Jimmy doesn't want to tell her. He's like, she made me promise not to tell anybody. But she's like, she doesn't mean me. I'm her friend. And so Jimmy, man, poor guy. He tries to do the right thing all the time. And he tells Dolly that, yeah, she saw my pictures of the little girl, Nella, with the tap shoes on. She knows her. She knew her name, and she's at this orphan hospital. Like, I could actually go meet her. I could visit with her. And Dolly takes this idea that he's not supposed to share this information as the fact that clearly Vivian's having an affair.
Yeah, I had a hard time with this part. This seemed
it's the trudge, brother.
It's the trudge, right? It's but just gutter brain. I mean, this is where your mind goes. So, but yes, this is absolutely where her mind went, that Vivian is obviously having an affair.
I mean, she blows it off with Jimmy, even though he's so earnest and sweet. She leaves him kneeling cold in the restaurant with a ring in his hand. She runs away. And then she's back volunteering, trying to be in touch with Vivian. Vivian keeps missing work for whatever reason. She thinks she's having an affair. But this lady comes in to return something to Vivian, a trinket that she lost. It's all wrapped up. And Dolly is mistaken for Vivian, which she really likes.
Oh, yeah. That's a great moment for Dolly.
They kind of look alike, I guess. So similar age and everything as well. But Dolly's like, oh, I'll take it to her. And this lady's heading out. So, okay, fine. And Dolly, is a total snoop. Bad habits. She opens it up. It's a locket. It's a necklace. Clearly, it's important to Vivian. She's seen her with it on. And it has what are evidently pictures of her family. Vivian's a young child in it. And then the rest of her family. And here's where Dolly pipe dreams their friendship. She's going to take this necklace back and Vivian's going to hug her and be like, my darling. She really goes down a path.
Oh, yeah. There's another key point on this. The locket is broken. There's one of the links on the chain is broken. That's how Vivian lost this. Well, that's easy to fix with a thumbnail. And so Dolly fixes the link so it looks intact. And she puts it in the safest place it could possibly be, around her own neck. And so Dolly is now wearing this locket to return to Vivian.
It's a few days later where she borrows one of the rich dresses from the old lady and she goes across the street to return this necklace. When she knocks, only the husband is there. Henry Jenkins is there. And she doesn't know that guy. He's like the ideal author, distant.
Great reputation, dark, brooding, devilishly handsome. Word on the street is how much he dotes and loves his wife. He's the total package. And he opens the door.
He opens the door and he invites her in because she says she has something for Vivian. But he's suspicious and asking, how do you know Vivian? It's like, well, we work together at the canteen is what they call it, the soup kitchen. And he's like, funny. I thought she was there right now. Why aren't you with her? He's clearly looking for answers. He's leading the conversation. And Dolly's getting a little nervous, but Vivian comes in. And she comes in slowly, and it's very positive between her and her husband, but tense. And she looks at Dorothy and says, I do not know this woman.
It is cold.
Yeah. How did you get my necklace? When she hands it to her. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah. So Dolly is asked to leave by Mr. Jenkins.
She's a servant. She must have stolen it. It doesn't look broken because she'd fixed it with her nail. Dolly, runs out ashamed. I mean, just completely horrified and humbled. She thought this was going to be this wonderful breakthrough in their friendship, and Vivian denies any knowledge of even having met her before. It's painful.
It is really well told. I mean, you hurt for Dolly. I mean, you kind of leading up to it, you're like, you're making a lot out of this. It's not going to go as well as you think, but you don't think it's going to be this utter rejection.
It's really bad.
And it is a stark and utter rejection, and she is crushed. Things aren't about to get better for Dolly, though, because I don't know about you, but this scene just blew my mind.
Well, I do want to say that Vivian knocks at the door.
Oh,
A
yes,
day
she
or two
does.
later, she comes to call at the house, and Dorothy ignores her, and she lies to the old lady, rich old lady, and she's like, "Oh, it's someone asking for money. Like, send them away." So Vivian does come to call. We know that much. Dorothy knows that much. But yeah, the next scene is a little jarring.
When we first meet Lady Gwendolyn, Dolly is working on her toenails with a file. And in the very first scene, she's not very good at it. Lady Gwendolyn is objecting to the pain being inflicted upon her. Well, it's happening again. And this time, clearly, Dolly is just not present mentally. She totally takes off a nail of Lady Gwendolyn. And Lady Gwendolyn says, enough, stop, don't do this. Give me my sweets. And so she gives her a piece of candy. And as she gives her the candy and it goes into the mouth, she coughs. Dolly coughs. And Lady Gwendolyn all of a sudden starts acting weird. Starts flapping her hands and looking panicked. She's choking on the sweet. It won't go down. Dolly doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know the Heimlich. She talks about, do I pound on her front or her back? She puts her finger in her mouth to try and grab it. Doesn't work. And slowly, over the course of just a little bit of time, Lady Gwendolyn dies from this sweet that goes down in her windpipe and chokes her.
It's really bad.
It is. I read it did that just happen?
Yeah, the doctor comes.
That just happened.
And they're like natural causes because it points out the thing dissolves by the time that they actually look at her body. So here is a big old secret.
Yeah.
For Dolly.
I mean, it's not like it's Dolly's fault.
But it's bad.
She coughed, okay. But yeah, just so sad.
Yeah, she sneezes and it makes her jolt. I mean, she just jumped and it did not end well for Lady Gwendolyn. So then the will is read, and Dolly has hopes here. She has been seemingly given evidence that she has reason to hope.
And she's invited to the will reading.
Yes.
Only people who are mentioned in the will are invited to the will reading.
But she leaves the bulk of her estate to the Kensington Animal Shelter. Dolly is given some clothes that she's mostly already given away because they were old, and an old white fur coat, and she keeps that.
That's right. That's mine. Because it's all she's got. It's a focus, really, of her resentment. She feels she's been cheated, and she tries to put together, how could this have happened? We were so close. This was going to happen. She was going to take care of me. How did this happen? And then she remembers Vivian. Vivian is out to get her, obviously. Clearly came and told Lady Gwendolyn that she stole the locket, is just being vindictive and cruel and mean for no good reason, and has now ruined Dolly's life. Because not only does she not have an inheritance, she doesn't have a job anymore. And without this job, she doesn't have this home anymore. She can't live there. So she has to go find somewhere else to work. She ends up getting a job in a munitions plant because there are lots of jobs for a munitions plant, and she goes back to the rinky-dink little boarding house that she lived in when she first arrived to London.
Oh, it's like a cupboard.
No
windows.
It's nothing.
Nothing. But yeah, she is just stewing and fuming because she somehow blames Vivian for her not having Jimmy anymore. Strange. She's very confusing in her brain right now. But she hatches a plan. She knows Vivian is having an affair with a doctor. And she thinks of a way that she can use that to her advantage. It's gross. Manipulative anyone is gross. I don't like this part. But it's sad though, because Dolly does have good aspects and she is currently ignoring them entirely. She does apologize to Jimmy and he sees her and she is visibly distraught. I mean, just run down. She's always wearing this raggy old white fur coat that just makes her look even sadder. But she apologizes and he says, "Hey, I still love you. I will still marry you." He had just lost everything except his camera. A bomb fell on his flat, his house. He thought he lost his dad. Thankfully, a neighbor saved him, got him to a a shelter in time, but he has nothing except the clothes on his back and his camera. No ring this time. But he's like, I would still marry you.
Mm-hmm.
He's very sweet.
Yeah, yeah. I do like Jimmy. Jimmy is good basically all the way through.
Yeah. But Dolly tells him her story, and he hurts for her. It's been hard for her, starting with the death of her family all the way to now. But then she shares this plot to really hurt Vivian, to get the money. And she sells it to him as this way to get the money to live their dream, right? We could go away. We could be happy together. And Vivian can afford it. She knows. And he's like, you want me to take a picture? And she's like, no, silly. You're going to be in it.
Yeah, I'm going to take the picture.
So their plan is to blackmail Vivian for money.
It does get pointed out that through all these 1941 passages and with Dolly's actions, the Blitz is going on.
Mm-hmm.
This is World War II, and the war is in full swing, and that changes things. People are acting in ways that they wouldn't act outside of this. I mean, the stress is ramped up, and so I think that's important to keep in mind because again, this is awful. And Jimmy feels this in his gut that this is just wrong and awful. But remembering the circumstances, it doesn't justify it, but it does help me to understand it a little bit more as people are making just horrible choices.
And then we flip back to grown-up Laurel. And Dorothy is near death here, and she wants to come home. She wants to come home to die. And here's where Laura goes through this mental anguish of whether or not to open her mother's trunk.
Because this is a big, big deal.
You don't touch your mom's trunk. That thing is private. No, from a childhood, she's confident she could not do it if her mom was downstairs. Yeah. So she has to do it before she comes home. She has the key. It's interesting. She opens her mom's trunk, and this is where her most private and oldest, most cherished possessions would be. And there's this ratty old white fur coat. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. She has this memory of wearing it once, like playing dress up as a little girl. And her mom's like, please take that off. And then like, oh, I got rid of it. But clearly she didn't. It's still in here. And there's a thank you card. It doesn't have a name on it. It just says thank you. And there's a stamp on it. So she knows when it's from. And that's all that's in there.
Yeah, there's really nothing in there. I do enjoy why these trunks are up there. She describes this. And again, we're not going into everything in this book, but I think this is sweet. So Dorothy lived through the Blitz. She lived through a time when entire homes and families just disappeared in a moment and people had nothing left. We just talked about how Jimmy had nothing left except his camera and his father, and that was it. And so Dorothy decided early on with her children, right, I can't protect them from everything, but if they want to know where their pictures are, there's going to be a box for it. And so they gave them each these private trunks that were their own. And I just think that's cool. Again, that tie-in between the war years and the way she lived her life afterwards, I think is fun. The other thing that happens here is we've already talked about how older Dorothy is kind of flitting in and out of the present, the past. Sometimes she knows where she's at. Sometimes she doesn't. Sometimes she can speak to her children. Sometimes she can't. And at some point in here, she asks Laurel to forgive her. Mm-hmm. She doesn't elaborate about what, but she asks her to forgive her. And so, again, Dorothy is definitely reliving some things. The hunt for information goes on with Jerry and Laurel. Jerry is going down the Dr. Rufus route, and Laurel hasn't heard anything from him yet, but frankly doesn't expect to for a while because Jerry does what Jerry's going to do. Laurel, though, gets redirected by Jerry to the library, the reading room. Forget Wikipedia. Let's go to the British Library and see if you can find something. And she finds a biography of Henry Jenkins. And within this biography, it mentions a little bit about his wife, Vivian. And it also mentions how she came from Australia and was accompanied by someone named Miss Katie Ellis. And so now she's got another name that she can pursue, Katie Ellis.
Yeah, there's letters reference from Katie Ellis, and who clearly knew Vivian. And here's where, even in this, it says that referring to Vivian, she didn't appear to need other people. Very self-sufficient, even as a little girl. Katie Ellis first meets Vivian when she's, 8 years old, coming from Australia to England. Turns out she was brought up by an uncle in England. She lost her family as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe here's where Laurel figures out that whatever had gone wrong with Dolly's plan had everything to do with Vivian.
Yeah.
And so we're on to part 3, where we learn about Vivian.
Yep. And this takes us to another timeline back to 1929 in Australia. And from the beginning of this, your heart just breaks for poor little Vivian. It's this little girl. I can't remember exactly how old she is, but she's young. 8? Yeah, so young little girl, and she's in trouble. She got in a fight, and so she's in trouble. So she is not allowed to go on this family trip. She's going to stay home. She's supposed to write apology letters, and the family goes off on this trip. Well, Vivian is not excited about writing apology letters, and she ends up going on this journey. And she walks out on their property, out through this water. And
Wait. Before she goes, I love that this is so little kid. First, she reads her sister's diary. She plays with her brother's toys. I think they're marbles. And she tries on her mom's shoes.
Yes, she does.
It's such an 8-year-old girl thing to do. I do think this book it's very human and lovely. And what would an 8-year-old girl stuck at home alone because she's in trouble,
Mhm.
what would she do? Yes, that
Yeah.
probably in that order. And she eats.
Yes.
But yeah, she talks about how indoors are stuffy and for grown-ups and they're boring, but outdoors, that's her place. So then she goes on her adventure.
And she finds a pool. It's a pool she knows well. It's on their property, and it is deep. She's never been to the bottom of it, but she sees lights. There are lights in the bottom of the pool, and she doesn't know what they are. This isn't her first time there. She'd seen these many times in the past. She keeps planning that she's going to dive deeper and deeper and find them. She's asked other people what these lights could be, and she hasn't gotten any real good answers. But eventually she figures out this must go through all the way to the other side of the world. Maybe this will come out at China or something like that.
A secret tunnel all the way to the Earth's core, and the stars will shine out on the other side. Those are the lights shining at the bottom of this pool. It's lovely.
It is. Well, she's over there. I mean, there's an encounter with the leech that's not terribly pleasant, but she gets through that, and eventually she falls asleep.
She is awoken by her aunt calling her, not her parents. She has parents and siblings who went on this picnic, but it's her aunt who calls for her. And it turns out there's this terrible car wreck. Her family was hurrying back because they knew she was home alone. And she never goes back to that pool. She's taken away. She's taken to her aunt's house. And she's made to feel like it was her fault.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Really bad. And eventually the aunt says, hey, I have too many kids to take care of. I think they asked the vicar, like, what should we do? And they're like, you know what? Her mom had a brother in England. Send her there. So this little girl who had just this wonderful life. She loved her family. She loved her father. It says that her father was a gentleman who didn't want to get her in trouble, but, he kind of had to, I guess. So he had to come up with a consequence. And he encouraged her to be adventurous and to dream about these lights at the bottom of the pool, but that's gone now. Now it is strict.
Yeah. And that's how Aunt Ada blames her, causes her to take responsibility for the death. One is if she hadn't fought, right, she would have been with them and she would have died too, and that would have been better. How brutal is that? And then the other thing is apparently her family, including her dad, were hurrying to get home. They wanted to be back with her. They didn't like that she was left behind and alone. And it was in this hurrying to get home that the crash happened. And so, again, this speaks to the love her family had for her, but Aunt Ada twists it. And so what Vivian internalizes is, I'm responsible for the death of my family.
She describes how she tries to stop time. She wants to look behind the veil. She wants to be dead too. She wants to basically end this horrible dream. So she very rarely speaks, and she's always very still, because if she's very perfectly still, she's convinced herself she can stop time and she can see her family.
On the journey, it is Miss Katie Ellis who accompanies her. And Katie Ellis is wonderful. She's finally a ray of light here. And she's gentle, she's kind to Vivian, and eventually she gets Vivian to talk to her and says, what, where do you go? What's happening? Katie Ellis notices that Vivian seems to want to be punished. So when people accuse her of things, even things she hadn't done, she doesn't object. She accepts punishment because we learn is because she's taking this on herself because she feels like she deserves this for the death of her family. And she talks to Katie about the fact that someday she's going to wake up and be home. That's her plan, to wake up and be home. And how do you know you're not woken up yet? Because she's not home.
She's not with her family.
Yeah. She gets to England, and her uncle isn't great, but she gets an education, but she keeps up a correspondence with Katie Ellis. The two of them stay close, and going back to grown-up Laurel, it is this correspondence, or at least kind of part of it. It turns out Vivian had asked Katie Ellis to destroy all the letters, but Katie Ellis was keeping a journal. And so Laurel ends up going to the New College reading room and is able to find these journals and is able to learn about a lot of this stuff.
Katie is worried. In one of her letters, it says that I worry that she, Vivian, will possess much that others will wish to take. She's beautiful. Turns out she's rich. She will inherit a lot of money, including the house on Camden Grove. That's her house and it's her money. But she can tell even leaving Vivian with her uncle makes Katie nervous that he's not there to take care of her. But they do continue this relationship together, which is something.
Going back to 1941, some of the gaps start to get filled in here about what Laurel is reading in the journals. Because Katie Ellis is not with Vivian in 1941. That's when these things are happening. But she's interacting with her via mail. And so there are things that Vivian is writing to her that are really worrying her. She's concerned about them. And so with that, we have this camera shift back to Vivian in 1941 and what she's doing at this time. Vivian is booking it through the streets as fast as she possibly can, and she bumps into a man. The
Yes.
man is Jimmy.
He's like, do you remember me? No.
He's social.
She's not. She's like, no, I don't. He's like, yes, you do. He basically asks if he can meet Nella, the little girl from the picture. He said, you said I could. And she doesn't want to help him, but she's like, okay, fine. Just this once you can come, but don't bother me after this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she tries to shut him out and down as much as possible. She certainly doesn't slow down her walking, and she's a fast walker.
But they end up at this orphan hospital, and he gets to meet Nella, this little girl who he took pictures of. They visit. It's a lovely time. But yeah, Vivian has no interest in sharing anything with him, talking to him. But turns out this is all part of the plot.
Yeah.
This is part of Dolly's plan, that he gets close, finds an opportunity where they can take a picture that looks bad. So he goes back again, I think a couple times before he is able to connect with her. But she follows this private staircase to the side, like a side door. It's very, discreet looking. He's following her with his camera, but then he's watching and he puts his camera down.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out she's working with these orphans to put on a play. Peter Pan.
Peter Pan! We're back to Peter Pan, the book at the beginning we discovered. And it is so kind. I mean, these orphans have nothing, literally nothing, but they love her and they love what they're doing on this play. But they've got a problem. The torch, the flashlight they have, is not strong enough to bring Tinkerbell back to life. This is the way they're doing Tinkerbell, but the battery's dying. From the doorway, Jimmy has an idea. How about a photographer's light? I've got some. And so Jimmy, to Vivian's horror, because she's been trying to just get rid of him, steps in. The children jump at this idea, and Jimmy agrees to be Tinkerbell in the play. He will manage the lights. And from then on, Jimmy and Vivian are hanging out together with these orphans to put on this play.
Yeah, Dolly thinks he's doing great. He's getting closer to Vivian, but he kind of puts his foot in it at some point because he's like, "Hey, do you have any kids?" And she says, "I can't have children." And he feels so bad. She runs off after that because she's always running. I feel like she's always in a hurry, but he feels terrible. And the next day, he gives her a picture. He takes a picture specifically for her, I think, of this family. He's like, "This reminded me of your story." Apparently, she shared it with the children, of the stream with the lights in it from her home and her childhood. It's this family coming up out of the shelter and the dawn with the lights behind it. And this touches her. I mean, she's had so little connection, seemingly. I mean, she has the husband, but it seems like she's very lonely, especially from the communication that we learned through Katie Ellis. But she goes away after that. They have this moment, and then she disappeared. Apparently, she's sickly for a while, and everybody's like, "Don't worry about it.
She does this. She'll come back."
Jimmy's like, "Where should we worry?" Like, no. But it's funny. The doctor who she supposedly is having an affair with, he comes out at this orphan hospital.
Well, he agrees to see Jimmy.
Yes,
it's a big deal. And the nurse up front is excited. He doesn't see anybody. He likes kids, but grown-ups, no. So it's an honor that he's willing to see you. And Jimmy steps in to see this man.
He's like 80 years old. He's like definitely a grandfather. There's nothing going on there. And Jimmy's so relieved. He tells Dolly, "Oh, no problem. They're not having an affair." And Dolly's she's still in on this plan. Like, "Oh, that doesn't matter. We're still making this happen. The husband will still be mad. We can still blackmail her." She never uses the word blackmail, maybe because it's ugly.
Yeah. But Dolly and Jimmy start arguing here, which was something that never used to happen. But they start fighting about stuff. They start arguing about this. And part of it is Jimmy is really enjoying the time he gets to spend with Vivian, because not only are they doing this play together, Vivian starts to visit him in his home and visits his father. And she's wonderful with his father. And his father loves her. And it's sweet. And he still loves Dolly, very much so. But he starts to think, why doesn't Dolly ever visit my dad? Yeah. Why doesn't she ever come over?
Vivian actually asks about Dolly, and she has true sympathy that Dolly lost her family. She understands this. And Jimmy's like, "I think you actually know her. Remember this thing?" And Vivian says, "Oh, she must hate me. She remembers denying her knowledge and existence." But she's like, "I tried to explain. No one would answer the door." And so for Jimmy, this not absolves her, but it explains it. Like, there's something there. We don't have to keep doing this. We don't have to keep having these secrets. And Dolly is not convinced. Dolly always wears that coat. And you're right. It is very symbolic of her bitterness and the baggage of her anger just at people in general, life in general. She kind of refuses to be reconciled. Yeah. And one of their arguments, Jimmy makes her apply for a job.
Yeah.
A new job outside the city. I think it's on the coast. He like watches over her shoulder as she writes the application and sends it.
And for a while, we haven't gotten Dolly's perspective. Everything has been through the other character's perspective, but it does switch back to Dolly's perspective here. And there she talks about, "I don't really want this job. I can always turn it down if I get it, but it's making him happy that I'm applying for it." And so she's willing to apply for it. And she starts to realize the separation and the break that's occurring between her and Jimmy. And she has a conversation with Jimmy, and she says, "You know what? Maybe this just isn't worth it. Maybe we should call this off." And Jimmy is thrilled. She even goes so far as to say, "Can I come see the play?" And Jimmy is shocked because, again, Dolly always wanted to keep Jimmy and Vivian separate, certainly around her. But yes, she can come see the play. And he's very excited that this is going to happen.
Yeah, she says, "I should never have asked you to do this." She wants to watch the show. And so it says the first and final showing of Peter Pan at this orphan hospital was a great success. It's really lovely. They act out Peter Pan. Tinkerbell is great.
Nailed it.
But the kids, they do this thing in secret where they actually change the Jolly Roger. They make a new sign that says Nightingale Star as a surprise for Jimmy. They've been sharing these stories, and they do this for him. And here's where Dolly is, she's giving thumbs up. She's happy to be there. And she says, hey, let's take a picture. Her and Vivian together. And Vivian's like, no, I don't need to. And Jimmy's like, sure, let's do it. So this is where they link arms. They smile at the camera. Dolly and Vivian take a picture together.
So we have the Peter Pan book, and we have the picture that fell out of it of Dolly and Vivian. So the pieces are coming together after many hundreds of pages.
Yeah, as they're taking down the set, though, Vivian, I think she leans forward and her collar of her dress opens up a little. And Jimmy sees some terrible bruising on her body. And she's, oh, no, I'm fine. I just bruise easily.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows something is wrong. Something is very wrong.
Yeah, because she can't have children. She bruises easily. She's sick a lot. There are bleeding disorders that this is a thing. And he is starting to worry that she is truly ill and might not live very long. And so he's really worried about her. So a lot of this we're seeing in real time, and then it's interspersed with, again, reading through the journals of Katie Ellis. And Katie Ellis is getting letters from Vivian talking about Jimmy. And Katie Ellis is starting to feel that an affair is about to happen. And if it's not, Vivian wants it to happen. She's starting to feel like Vivian is falling in love with Jimmy.
In the letter from Vivian, she says that she let herself laugh with Jimmy. Apparently she doesn't laugh with her husband. But Katie takes it upon herself for Vivian's health is referenced that Katie's going to write to Jimmy herself so that he knows how serious this is. And as Laurel's reading through these letters, Jerry finally shows up with his information from Dr. Rufus, or at least a piece of it, and it says they weren't friends. Dolly and Vivian weren't actually connected. They were not close friends at that time. So, twist.
This was a massive twist when I read it. And of course, Jerry does this from a payphone and he doesn't have much change. So he gets about that much out and then the conversation is over. And Laurel is sitting there just as confused as we are about what's going on.
They were never friends? What? Because we saw this picture at the beginning where their arms are linked and they're happy. Well, now we know where the picture came from.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't friends. But Vivian actually gets a phone call. She's at home. She's thinking about Jimmy. He helps make her happy. He helps her laugh. But she gets a call from Dr. Rufus. And he says, hey, you might want to sit down. But he shares Dolly's plan with Vivian. It turns out he, as you said, he's this kind of a early psychologist. And he does this research on different things. And he's been studying Dolly. And he feels like it's time, apparently, to share this plan, to divulge it, because it's ugly. And here, Vivian is devastated. She says she fell asleep crying. She woke up crying. But she does take some action. She writes a check. And she goes to meet Jimmy with a copy of Peter Pan. She basically says goodbye and hands him the copy of the book with a check for £10,000. Basically, here's what you wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's far more than they would have ever asked for. This is enough for them to start a completely new life. And Jimmy is just twisted in half with this because it's just wrong and he knows it's wrong. But he goes and he talks with Dolly about it. And we learn some more about Dolly here too. That's not great. Dolly has actually taken that picture and developed it herself. The intimate picture of Jimmy and Vivian, when he was looking at that bruise and worried about her health, that was a compromising position when you take a picture of it and don't know the context. And Dolly said, well, I said we shouldn't have done it, meaning I shouldn't have asked you to do this. I was still going to do it. She has the envelope. It's stamped. It's addressed. She's got a letter in it asking for money. And there's this picture. And Jimmy is just sick that she would even do this at all.
And he does show her the check. And they say, okay, you don't need to send it anymore. We already have this money. But it's sad they're at this restaurant. And because the picture's no longer needed, Dolly doesn't pay attention to it. It's just left on the table.
Mm-hmm.
It says it falls down a crack, whatever. That comes up later, though, and it says fate is tricky. Yeah. Because it ends up getting mailed. Somebody finds it. The thing is addressed and stamped. They put it in the mail.
Yeah, so when it falls down, it would have been forgotten about, but this is World War II and bombs are falling. And a bomb came and destroys this cafe and destroys everything in it except the letter. And so somebody who is going through all this picks up this unsealed envelope, sees its address, sees its stamp, the picture falls out, and it looks like young lovers. And she kind of goes, "Aw, we should send this." She doesn't read it, that would be prying and rude. So she seals it and she sends it off. And the line here, it's just heart-wrenching. It says, "She popped the envelope in the post box as she walked home, and for the rest of her long, largely happy life, she thought about those lovers sometimes and hoped things had turned out well for them." So again, it was an act of charity. It was an act of kindness to send this letter, but phew, she should have read it first because it turns out to not be an act of kindness.
No, so Dolly doesn't know it's even sent now, but she asks Jimmy if she can keep the book, Peter Pan. And she's loving the inscription, a true friend is a light in the dark, and she adds for Dorothy at the top. It's a lot cringe, actually. She adds it herself for Dorothy. It was for Jimmy.
Mhm.
But here's where Jimmy gets a letter from Katie Ellis, Vivian's friend. And it says he understands everything now. He's angry, but he knows that he cares about her. And he insists on seeing Vivian. She was done. She had said goodbye. She'd given him the money. She was done. It also says he could never spend the money. And he could never be with Dolly if she spent the money.
Mhm.
It's ugly money. And then we jump ahead a little bit where Vivian is waiting for Jimmy. She didn't expect to follow up with him ever again. But he isn't the kind of guy who doesn't show up. And he misses it. She's there. She waits an hour longer than she should have waited. But he doesn't show up. So she heads home.
Yeah, she has to head home. And she walks in the door and her husband is there. Henry Jenkins is there waiting for her. And this is dark. It's just wrong. He is clearly a manipulative, abusive slimeball and has been for their entire relationship together. The bruising is from him. The sickness is from him. It's her recovering from him beating her over and over and over. And they walk in and they have an initial conversation, but rapidly it becomes apparent that he has seen this letter. He has opened this letter, seen the picture, and he pummels her to within an inch of her life. And as he's doing this, and as she's passing out of conscious, he also drops the line, "And don't you worry about Jimmy Metcalf. I've had him taken care of. He's dead now, rotting at the bottom of the Thames. He won't come between us anymore." One of the things we haven't talked about, Henry, is his job. He's a writer, he wrote books, but what he is doing during the war is working for the Ministry of Information. Essentially, he's a spy, which means he's got contacts, he's got killers at his disposal. And Vivian's very clear that he's used them before. And this is why she won't talk with anybody. This is why she wanted Jimmy to just go away. Anybody that comes into her life becomes a target. This is also why she claimed to not know Dolly. Now, part of it is she didn't know Dolly as well as Dolly thought they knew each other. But part of it was Henry's got a history of basically abusing any woman that walks by, including their maids, including any friends that come into the house. And so she was working to protect Dolly. But this is where we have come to through this kind of tragedy of errors. And now she is just beaten to, like I say, within an inch of her life.
It's written in this very heartbreaking way where when she passes in and out of consciousness, she sees her family for a moment. She sees her brother, she sees her mother, she sees her father. And it says she knows that sometime he'll kill her. And she realizes after he's done abusing her, he puts her to bed with tears and kisses. He feels so sorry after. It's
Just
twisted.
sick.
But she knows that he'll kill her eventually. And she realizes here that the one thing she can take from him is her. So she gets up, even though she's so beaten and bloodied. She's devastated. She knows Jimmy's gone. She writes a really quick letter, though we don't know what that is about yet. But then she goes looking for Dolly. And here I really love Vivian. She's trying to make it right she doesn't go to Dolly in anger, like, what have you done sending this letter, you fool? Like, Dolly addressed it so she knows where to go. And this is that conversation from the beginning. But we learn more about it. We know more about it now. And she tells Dolly, Jimmy's gone, but you need to go make a new life. And there's so much more to it on this round.
Yeah.
Round 2.
This is where we get it from Vivian's viewpoint, not from Dolly's viewpoint. We get it from Vivian's viewpoint. And now we know the background. We know who these people are. We know what's gone wrong. And it is powerful. Kate Morton did a great job with this. It's poignant and powerful and sad and tragic all in once.
Yeah, and these bombs are falling overhead. There's an active bomb raid happening as they're having this conversation. But Vivian says, you have to run. They will keep hunting you your whole life. Go now. And Dolly, when she grieves for a moment, she's like, okay, I got this job offer. I could do that. So she's packing this bag, ready to go. And Vivian says, I'm going to go home. She's going to go to the bottom of the river is her plan.
Because this is that home that she was telling Katie Ellis about with her family. She's going to wake up from this dream of a nightmare of a life she has, and she's going to go home, and she's planning to kill herself. But this is London in 1941. This is the Blitz, and a bomb falls directly onto this building as these two women are talking. And before she loses consciousness, the last thing Vivian thinks is, oh, I don't even have to do it. Really powerful. But now we get a time jump again. And we come back to 2011, and we come to Laurel is kind of at a dead end. I mean, she knows so much more. She knows about Vivian. She knows about Jimmy, but she doesn't know all that we know because we've gotten to see this all play out. And so she's trying to figure out, what do I do next? And kind of almost desperately, it's almost a gut instinct. She goes back to Camden Yard. She goes back to the house of Henry Jenkins, that Henry Jenkins doesn't live there anymore.
First, she has a conversation with her mother. And she says, tell me about your friend. She tries again to talk to her. And here her mother says, Henry was a brute. She says, I was scared. And Laurel says, you killed him for what he did to Jimmy. And she's like, yes, and he threatened my children. He threatened to take away everything I love. And here is where Laurel says, I love you. I forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
Still doesn't know every bit of the story, but enough to have reconciliation. And yeah, looking at that thank you letter that she found in her mother's trunk, there it is postmarked Camden Grove, 1953.
What?
What?
Wait a minute.
Hey, that's
We've
later.
been in 1941 and then the 1960s. 53?
That doesn't belong.
There must be more to this story. Enter part 4.
Back to Dorothy.
Back to Dorothy. But really back to Laurel. And so this is where Laurel goes back to Camden Yard. That place where the little kid pointed at her and said, your daddy's lady? Well, that's where she's at. But this time it's not just the kid. This time the mom is there. And she looks and recognizes her because everyone recognizes this famous actress. But there's more to it than that. She says, oh my goodness, it's you. Marty wants to see you. Do you got a moment? Can you come in? Sure. Laurel's got a moment. She doesn't know who Marty is. She walks in and it's a wonderful scene because apparently Marty wrote his doctoral thesis on her as an actress, on her roles in Shakespeare. So it is just like idol worship. I mean, he's so excited to meet her in person because he's written papers and books on this woman. And here she is in his house. The house is all cluttered. The kid's on the floor. There's toys around. Laurel loves this because she has the whole big family. But they start talking and she learned, how did you get this place, right? Where did this come from? And he says, oh, it was given to my great-great-grandfather Bertie.
Vivian Jenkins gifted the house to Jimmy's dad. That was that quick letter she wrote before she headed out to Dolly. She was trying to make as many things right as she could. She knew Jimmy's dad would be alone. He'd have nothing. And she was not going to need this home anymore. And it wasn't her husband's house, it was her house.
Hmm.
She gifts it to Jimmy's father to care for him. And there's descendants there. Marty and his family live there. It says, Granddad never missed one of your plays.
Yeah.
And there's a picture on the wall. And before Laurel can say, that's my mom, he says, that's Vivian Jenkins.
And there is the twist of all twists in this book. Laurel's mom is not Dolly. It's Vivian. Vivian Jenkins. And the other part about this chapter, as scene in particular, I loved was that Bertie, the guy who had been given the house, well, apparently his mind wandered a little bit and he didn't really believe people just came and gave houses to him. He didn't believe it until his son came back and said, yes, it's okay. His son apparently had been beaten, thrown into the Thames to die, ended up crawling out, being convicted for a blackmail scheme because of a 10,000 pound check in his pocket, but then allowed to leave prison to join the army where he served honorably, and then ended up going home, getting married, having a family. Jimmy lives. I was so excited to find that Jimmy made it out of this because I thought he was gone. I thought he was dead, and he's not. He was able to survive all of this, and we're witnessing his children and grandchildren.
Yeah, so he had passed some 10 years before, but it turns out Vivian had woken up after the bomb fell, and Dolly didn't. Dolly died from that bomb falling, but there was a job offer in hand. There was a bag packed. And here Vivian sees a chance to escape her horribly abusive husband. She puts her wedding ring on Dolly. Everybody has said that they look alike. She takes her name. When the firemen come to help, she gives the name of Dolly Smitham. She takes on this new persona, and it says she walks. She walks to a new life. And she's terrified at first that her husband's following her, right? He's going to come after her. But she takes this job at this boarding house. And over time, she becomes Dolly. She becomes Dorothy. And she falls in love. And she marries happily and makes this family with all these girls and one baby boy. And she finds this man who also makes her laugh. And I love it. Even here, she has these, but these are sweet secrets where they have the love story of how, they met and how they'd fallen in love. But in her mind, she had fallen in love when he first made her laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So even now she has her secrets, but now they're sweet.
I love that too. Now, wait, I'm confused though, because there's still a loose end here. That thank you note was post-dated 1953. How did that happen? He says leadingly. This is a wonderful flashback. So this goes back to Laurel, but as a little girl, even younger than what we saw her before. And she is trying to figure out how many cartwheels it takes for her to go all the way around the house. So she's doing cartwheel after cartwheel after cartwheel, trying to figure out what the number is, but she's got a problem because there's a gate. They've got hens on one side of the gate and a garden on the other side of the gate. And for her to continue her cartwheel count, she has to open the gate and prop it open. But if she does that, the hens will get through into the garden.
Her dad's garden.
Yeah. So she is stern with the hens and tells them, don't you dare go into the garden. She props the gate open with the boots of her dad that are laying around, and she continues her cartwheeling journey. She's delighted, but while she is doing this, the hens get into the garden, and this is really a problem. So she runs in, she tries to get the hens out before they eat everything, but she's really having trouble, at which point a man comes by. Now, the last time we met a young Laurel and a man came by, he was terrifying and he got stabbed. This man was very kind, and he said, basically, what are you doing? She said, I'm trying to get the hens out. He said, I actually speak pretty good hen. Shall we try it together? And so he hops in and clucks and balks, and the two of them get the hens out. And he says, hey, I'm looking for your parents. Are they around? She says, well, they'll be back any moment now. You can wait in the house. And so they go and they sit in the house. And ultimately what he ends up asking is your mother happy? Is she happy? And Laurel knows that answer. Yeah, she's happy. She starts telling stories about how they met. She tells stories about her and her dad. And that's all this man needs to hear. And so this man then gets up and leaves. Obviously, this is Jimmy. He came to check on Vivian to make sure she's okay and that she's happy. Laurel forgets about this encounter. She doesn't even tell her parents about it. But this is where that thank you note came from. So Jimmy sends the thank you note in 1953. There's one other thing about this that I really like, and this goes back to Laurel's career as an actress. Earlier on, she was talking about how a director had sat her down and said, "You're not pretty enough to be a main lady. You're just not. It's not going to happen. So you need to get into character." And so she became a character actress, but she became renowned for being essentially a good listener, for being a good observer. And this is how she did so well in her career. And earlier in the book, she had said that, yeah, that actually came from this like stagehand. Didn't even remember who it was, but gave her this line. And that's what she's always used for her career. So she wishes she could find him to thank him. She doesn't even know who it was. Here she remembers who it was. It wasn't a stagehand. This was this man that came to the house because she told him, "I'm going to be an actress someday." And he says, "Yeah, I think you will." He says, "You strike me as the sort who knows how to listen with her ears, her eyes, and her heart all at once." And then he leaves. And so the tie-ins are just so good.
Yeah, and the final one has to do with Dorothy. Guess she is at home with her children. Dorothy or Vivian. She has become Dorothy.
Yeah.
Dorothy Nicholson, because she married Stephen Nicholson and lived a wonderful life. And her children are playing by the light of the silvery moon, which is the song that, according to their stories, when they fell in love, Dorothy and Stephen, when they first met, as they like danced on a dock together at the seashore, which is very sweet. So they're playing it for her, and she breathes her last. And her children decide that she should be buried with her locket. She always wore her locket. Laura's looking at it before they put it on her for the last time. And she notices there's a little lip on one of the pictures because the pictures in it are her and her siblings, her greatest treasures. But she peels back the pictures on each side, and there are still the pictures of Vivian's childhood family in there as well. All of her greatest treasures.
I think it's a great book. I was really struck by it. Like I say, I don't read a lot of modern authors, but this one was worth reading. And the twists are fantastic. It's well constructed, well written. The intergenerational aspect of it is just great. This idea of family over time, people over time, it's just so good. And again, I'm impressed by the artistry it took to bring that all together and to make it to where you get a very satisfying answer at the end. Well, there was one secret we talked about at the beginning that we have not yet uttered. This is the Secret Keeper book, after all. This was a request, and this was a birthday present. The greatest lover of this book that I know is my wife, Vanessa. And so we are reading this, going through it for her, and I'm glad we did, and I'm glad we read it.
Happy birthday.
So with that, we'll turn the page, and we hope you join us for the next chapter.